the discussions about the coaches and what's going on in that area. But the game has changed so much off the field, and we're seeing a balancing out. You talked about it earlier, balancing out of talent across the country, and it's been it for a really, really exciting season. I honestly believe that. But where are we overall for college football? Are we in a good spot? Obviously, there's things that need to be corrected. Are we in a good spot, great spot, bad spot, and kind of where are some areas that need to get fixed for coaches and players alike?
I think in the short term right now, it's a fun time because you're seeing Indiana and you're seeing all these different teams get involved. Vanderbilt's in the top 10. You're seeing teams evolve, which is fun. But I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, I gave a talk about this the other day. I think we're in a very scary spot if we're not careful. And
Mhm.
here's what I mean. We're trying to make this an elitist sport.
Yes.
The top 30, 40 teams in the country, whatever that number is. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that group, there's 32 in the Big Ten, the SEC. They're playing with unfair rules. They're getting $40 million more per program than the other schools are getting because of TV and all that stuff. And what scares me about that is, all right, say we're going to take our ball and go home. Okay, we're going to take our ball and go home, and we're going to play. Now your Florida States of the world, your Miamis of the world, your Clemson's of the world. Those teams that have, and I think they're going to stay in there because of great history. Like I said, that's 11 national championships since 1981. That's one of every 4 years. One of those three schools has won a championship,
Right.
and they're making $40 million less than all these other teams. You know what I mean? Which is not fair. I mean, it's not the right thing. But here's my point about this: if we say that, you're going to get a lot of teams, in my opinion. I'm not going to name names. These other programs, well, we can't win a championship. This is costing us X amount of dollars, and football is by far the most expensive sport. And your fans aren't coming because we're not playing for. You know what they're going to say? Why are we doing this? Why don't we just drop football?
Yeah.
Let's invest all of our money in NIL and basketball and go become a basketball power. And I got 12 guys to pay for instead of 100.
Right.
And what happens is now, and here's the other thing, then where do your FCS teams, your 1AA teams, where do they get their money? Because
Yeah.
you're not playing them anymore.
Correct.
All right, well, that money doesn't trickle. All right, how does Division Two get going? How does Division Three? And my point about this, and why is that so important? Well, here it is. To have Major League Baseball, what do you got to have?
Yeah.
Minor League Baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's 25 guys on a minor league team. 23 or 24 of those guys aren't ever moving up. They're all playing so they can develop those one or two guys
Yeah.
to move up. They're all, I mean, that's what baseball, minor league baseball is. There's one or two guys, big prospects on the team, and they play single A, double A, rookie league, all that to try to get better and move up. And the rest of you guys, occasionally guys move up like that. Don't get me wrong, it happens, but very rarely does that matter. But well, here's my point. You know who those guys become? All your coaches, all your people in the high school coach. And so my point is this: if these teams all start dropping football, and that money doesn't trickle down to those lower levels of football, okay, what's a high school kid going to say? Why am
Right.
I playing high school football? Because, Division two, even I played Division two, I got my school paid for. I got a scholarship. One double A, I got my scholarship. And if I'm not even a Power Four conference, I still got my scholarship. You know what I mean? And I got an education. I went into what I'm doing. Well, if I'm in high school and all these programs start dropping football, I'm talking about 15, 20, 25 years from now. You know what I'm saying? As this thing goes down the road, then all of a sudden, well, I'm going to go play soccer. I'm going to go play lacrosse. I'm going to go play a sport I can get a scholarship in.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, where's all your great players going to come from that are going to the Division One schools? High school football is going to suffer.
Right.
And here's the other thing. Where's all your coaches coming? Where'd Bobby Bowden go
Exactly.
to school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sanford University. Where'd Joe
Yep.
Paterno go? Brown. Where'd Dabo? Dabo was a walk-on, so there's no
Right.
more walk-ons. I went to Sanford. Nick
Nick
Saban went to
Saban.
Kent State.
Yeah.
Nick Saban went to Kent State. Dan Lanning was a small-time guy.
Yeah.
I'm just naming, because what do all the great players in Division One do? Most of them go play in the NFL. They ain't dumb like us and get into coaching. They go make their money and want to put all those hours in. And where do your coaches learn to coach? You know what I mean? That you
Yeah.
pull guys up like you're doing now for all these jobs. I mean, we got to be careful not to destroy the golden goose that just because we want to be elite and have this elite league and pay all this money to these guys, if you don't trickle that money down, these programs can't survive. And
Right.
and like I said, the other day when I was watching, when I was a kid, baseball by far was the best sport. I mean, the biggest sport in America. It was the football was good and basketball, but baseball was America's sport. You guys don't remember, you're too young. I understand that. But I mean, the other day I couldn't even find the American League Championship Series
I
Game
know.
7 on TV,
Crazy.
which you could have never told me that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Things evolve and rotate, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's great for now because you get all these teams are spreading the players out. We just got to spread more of the money out. We can't forget the old right now it's the Big 12 and the ACC. These leagues have to get their share in this, and I think nationally in Congress, we got to do something to make some parity across the board
Yes.
in what we're trying to do with the TV contracts. That's
I
because if
agree.
not, I'm afraid we're going to separate. And these guys say, I'll just go quit and go put all my money in
It already
basketball.
feels separated right now. I mean, it
Right.
feels
No
like
doubt. But they're
it feels
still
like
playing.
maybe a
I
handful.
think some will drop it, Aaron. I'm scared
Yeah,
some of these
Right.
guys are going to drop it.
I don't
I
think you're
agree.
wrong with that. And I
No.
think, you and I, coach, have talked about this so many times, but as it is right now, everyone is looking for themselves. The SEC is looking
Yeah.
for what's best for the SEC. There is no collective.
There's no one guy. All right,
No.
Sankey does. Every commissioner's got his conference, which is what they're supposed to do. Every coach does his team. Who has college football or college athletics best? Name me one person
Yeah,
that
nobody.
has that in place. So
Nobody.
you can't name, like in the NFL, you got Roger Goodell. He's a
Right.
commissioner. You can't name that person in college athletics, not just football, but
Correct.
college athletics. It's everybody's conference has its power, and that's
Yeah.
what those. And listen, I don't blame those guys.
Sure.
That's their job description. That's where they get paid.
Right.
But we've got to somebody's got to step in and do something to create some parity for everything, the best of college athletics. All right, we're still paying them money, we're letting them do all that, but we got to get some parity, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree because we'll lose it, like you said, and the baseball example is a great example of how quickly it can happen. I mean, you're talking about a generation that is a light years difference, and that's terrifying to really think about. This is a good transition to talk about these coaches and the just crazy. This is more again. We're younger guys. Coach, correct us if we're wrong. This feels like the most highest profile guys getting let go mid season than ever before. Why? What's the benefit? What's the point? And, do you see that changing in the near future?
Right now, no, I really don't. I think because it's everybody. All right, now you're putting outside sources in. But you always had boosters. They paid for, man, they paid for facilities. Now some of them used to pay for players, but they publicly couldn't say it. They publicly couldn't say it like that. I mean, but not to the extent you're doing now, not to the sums of money. And I always say when you bring money, and the more money you bring into it, the more volatility you bring in. Whatever it is, listen, money creates power. Money is about who has power has money, and money and power go together. When you start bringing those folks into your decision making on a daily basis, they don't have patience. And they also forget that when they made their businesses, not every business day did they make money. They lost money.
That's
And some of their
right.
companies, sometimes, if you think you hear some of the great stories of these rich guys in these companies. We were almost broke. We had almost went to bankruptcy. We made this change. Well, that probably happened over a 2-year period. If you was a coach, you'd been fired. You wouldn't have had a chance to do that. All these guys that make money, they forget that. If somebody's sitting there in their board meeting every day and looked over their shoulder, they wouldn't like it. But that's the world we're in. And the more you get those folks in here and all the outside money and the outside power because you have to, here's what's happening with NIL. You have to keep going back to the same well over and over for more money. And so this guy said, wait a minute. If I'm giving all this money, I want them to say so.
Yeah.
And you got guys talking into a business that they kind of understand, but they don't really understand and how it goes. And then the AD then the AD's hearing it. Then the president's hearing it. And listen, the ADs can take a little bit of pressure. The presidents can't take any pressure.
Correct.
They hate because they're most of what is the president's world in? Academia.
Yeah.
And when they're having to spend 90% of their time dealing with this football issue or basketball or whatever it may be, I don't want to hear it. So let's just go get rid of that guy, go make this guy happy, get him off my back. You know what I mean? And I think that's a lot of what's happening because this is new to them too. And now you get all these powers to be with all this money. If I'm going to put all this money in there every year, I want to say so. And in my opinion, that's what's happening. I lost you.
Hit your mic probably, Aaron.
I can hear you, Eric, a little
Oh,
bit.
there we go. There we go.
There
I
we
actually
go.
hit my mic. Because I always feel like you can't just keep going back, like you said, the well over and over again, going back to these boosters. I mean, it's still wild to me that you can afford in a time when it feels like all these coaches and not coaches, but administration, presidents, ADs are penny pinching, where you can go to a booster or a group of boosters and say, hey, I need $54 million to pay for the buyout for X coach, Brian Kelly, but I'm also going to need to go do those same boosters to figure out a way to get NIL funds for our players. I know that's kind of the rules of, not allowed them to directly pay, but there are avenues in which they can still pay them. how can you be penny pinching and afford to do that and go back to the same people and over and again? Like, are there people that literally just have millions upon millions upon millions that you can literally call on every single year to bail you out?
Yes, there are, but some guys
Uh-huh.
eventually, even them guys get tired of it because it's like a
Yeah,
bad investment. Why am I, they
yeah,
don't keep making. They got all that money because they didn't make bad investments. You know what
yeah.
I mean? What's my return? And I think that's why you're starting to see they're trying to into the equity firms and people buying all of these and into teams and into conferences. It wasn't a Big Ten. Was it the Big Ten that had that set up
Yeah.
through Wall
Mhm.
Street? And we're trying to do that. And these teams are because they're trying to create different revenue sources and forms of revenue to take the pressure off of that to be able to do it. But then you start getting into that world. Now you're getting into another bag of tricks that can get involved in.
Mhm.
We're crossing over amateurism, so-called amateurism, but we're turning into
Yeah.
professionalism into a world of money that nobody really has any experience on. And
Mm-mm.
and there's not a blueprint. And no, here's the thing: no one's ever done it.
No.
No one's ever done it. They're flying by the seat of their pants in everything they do, and I think, and there's no patience right now because that's why
Well, I
you're
think I
saying,
think they
well,
don't know how to run it like a business. I think they have to run the football program or athletic program like a business, and they don't know how to run it like a business.
well, because you don't know where the revenue like in a business though, you know where your revenue source is coming from.
Yeah.
You know where I'm making money. You know what I mean? And the money, it differs. That guy, this guy, different guy I go to. Well, what can I do to take some pressure off of those guys? Because there's only their well's going to dry up one day,
Yeah.
and they're going to get tired of it. And well, how can I
Mhm.
spread it out? That's what they're trying to do. Create different revenue sources like a business does. Where else am I going to get money? You either got to, because if you keep getting money and you're growing and you can't get any more money, you got to cut back.
Yeah.
And people don't want to cut back, and that's what you're going into the haves and have-nots. That's my point about some of these guys just saying, "The heck with this, I'm not doing it anymore." You know what I
Right.
mean? And dropping football, and it'd be easier to deal with basketball with 12 guys than it is with 100 of football guys or whatever sport, women's sports. My time today, if I had a daughter, my God, I'm scared to death about with the revenue for her
I
sports.
I know.
I mean, not that she's making money, but just the money to have them to perform and be able to go through college, you know what I mean, and get a scholarship. So I
Mhm.
think that's where I think Congress, we have to do it through Washington, D.C. So God help us.
That's a fact.
We're in a government shutdown right now. Let alone,
No,
we ain't
Could
exactly.
even
you
talking to each
imagine
other.
a government shutdown, no college football being played? My
Yeah, I
God,
mean,
anarchy.
but we've got to get because here's the issue with everything, guys. All these rules from NIL to transfer portal, why the NCAA give it? And everybody's blaming the NCAA. Now they could have evolved in time. I think if they would have gradually evolved, I think it would have made this a less tenuous time, and people
Mhm.
would have absorbed this better. But here's in their defense, here's what happens. Every time they go to court, they get their butt kicked.
Yeah.
Yes.
They can't win in court. None of their
Mhm.
laws or rules set up. The only person can do that is Washington, D.C. And they have to make some laws and rules that say when we go to court, we've said this is not going to happen. We're keeping it like this. And until we do that, it's going to continue to be wild, wild west. And I hate to say that in my mind, what I'm seeing, my limited, again, I don't know how the government works to it. I mean, I have a general idea and things, but not to the extent. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but because I had a lawyer tell me one time, the NIL and the transfer portal was one of the most intriguing cases I've ever dealt with because I went down 50 roads and every one of them got a rabbit hole at the end.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? In other words, there's a loophole that law doesn't stand up. You get it going for I win that. No, nope, doesn't hold up here until it goes back to here. And until government sets that up, we're not going to have nothing's going to be stable. And when things aren't stable, it just becomes the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and that's just
Yeah.
the way it is.